I have my 2 jars of king oyster master culture, liquid culture, and you can see in this one there's quite a bit at the bottom. I've actually already mixed it up once. If I shine the light in there, you can see the mass of it growing. There's also, you can see a few bits and pieces that floated to the top and are growing out on the top. I had to remake the first jar I pulled out because you can see I got a big crack all the way around it. Well, almost all the way around it. If I had gone all the way around, it would have just separated the bottom from the rest of the jar. And that happened because I pulled it out of the pressure cooker while it was too hot and then sat in front of the flow hood, and it cooled too fast and cracked. I should have waited at least another half an hour to pull it out. You always have the risk of cracking anything glass when you go from hot to cold. I've never had the problem of going really hot from cold, cracking anything, but yeah. Always cool your glass items down slowly. But I don't think this culture is ready to mix up quite yet. But this one is ready to mix up again. And I mixed the first time on about 4 days after inoculation. So now it's a little over a week. I'm just gonna put it on my little magnetism mixer here. And start off slowly. That'll help get the little stirrer rod centered. And then best thing to do is let it spin up a bit until it gets everything moving, and then kick it as high it can go and then turn it off. So I've checked on these dishes that I made about a week ago. This is the progress. The purple Reculturing that had some sedimentation of spores, it got bacteria. I don't know if you can see inside the dish. Actually, I know what I'll do. I'll clean up this flashlight with some alcohol. Get sanitary there. Maybe you can see the contamination in it. Here's one with a little bit less condensation. So, yeah, a little bit of sedimentation in the spore syringe for that. My Plutus cervinus had a lot of sedimentation in it, and it got bacteria. See it in there. Other dish the same. But the syringe I used of the abortive entoloma that had a low enough spore density that you didn't see any of the spores in the syringe settled. It was a success. Although there might be some bacteria in there with it. Actually, I'm pretty sure there is. But I can definitely see some mycelial growth. Right about here is where it's strong. Kind of made little tiny bumps of mycelium. You can see them there. But I'll be able to transfer that away and get a clean culture. This dish actually looks a lot better. I don't see any bacteria at all. It looks like mycelial growth growing out. But that goes to confirm that a low spore density is what you want when you do an inoculation. And probably, I surmise what's happened is that bacteria has grabbed those spores and probably ate them a little bit and infected them when they're that thick and caked up in the syringe. Also too, the entoloma, I did the spore print in the lab room, so I'm sure that plays a large role in preventing the contamination to it. So yeah, so if I'm going to make spore syringes or anything with spore prints again, I'm going to make the prints in here and just try to limit it so I'm not sending spores all around. And then my king oyster culture. You can't visibly see it. Some condensation on the inside. I might have used such a small amount because I used, one tiny drop that I possibly didn't get any culture in that drop. Let's see. I'll just rewrap this if I don't see anything. Oh yeah, looks like it's just started. I think I should have added more. Of course, if you're adding drops of a culture syringe, it's not the same game as a spore inoculation, so you can probably get away just fine adding several drops of it to a petri dish. Yeah, as long as those aren't satellite colonies, it looks like it started. But I can see them in the reflection. It looks like a bunch of little dots everywhere. Probably because the droplet I put on there streaked everywhere because I turned these upside down. I'll be able to tell in a few days, how clean it is. And they'll be large enough too that I can do transfers from it. But what I should do today is get some transfers of this entoloma. And while I'm at it, I'll make some new dishes of king oysters with a few more drops of the culture in it to get some faster growth and really make sure that those aren't satellite colonies of contamination. Alright, I'm ready to do a transfer with this abortive entoloma. You can see I got my flame already going. I went ahead and extended the wick out just a tiny bit so it stayed lit a bit better. You don't want to do that too much, otherwise the flame will get a bit too big and a bit wild. Also make sure when you have these style of alcohol lamps that you've screwed it in well, because there's a little bit of gap in between the cap and the stem that comes out. If that's not screwed down tight, you can get some alcohol up through the crack there, and it can ignite it, and then you'll start catching the whole top of your lamp on fire. But anyway, so I chose the one that has a lot of growth in the center, and I really don't see any bacteria in it. I don't think I see actually any bacteria in the other one either. It's just that it's pretty young. Hard to tell at the start sometimes, before you start seeing the little filaments of mycelium. that out. Let's see, look at that thing. I have the scalpel that I use, which is a wedge style one. So you see it has a little bit of a diamond shape to it. And these are good for cutting into the dish and then using the wedge portion of it to pop the little piece out and then stab and transfer it. There's the other style. Oh, it's getting a little too close. A little too close. The other style of scalpels has a flat, thin blade, and usually those are longer too, so you can get a bit into hard to reach areas, which is good. But I've always used this style. Go ahead and give it a quick wipe down with alcohol. Let that dry off. And then I'm going to flame sterilize the end of it. About a whole inch of it. Now, for this style, you'll never get the end actually red hot, but it's still very hot. And then just run it through the agar. And look for a leading edge of mycelium. You want to cut just the very edge of clean agar and the running mycelium. There is one. About the size of a grain of rice. And then just flip it upside down or on its side in the center of the new dish. And that's one. You can see here, I forgot to include my spacer dish when I cooked these, so do a little trick by kind of like pushing down on the one end and tilt it so you can get underneath of it. Put that there. I've already taken 2 of those dishes and inoculated them with some more king oyster culture, about 4 drops per dish. And you always want to re-sterilize between every transfer. And ideally too, you want to get your scalpel hot enough that it squeals and sizzles when you touch it to the fresh agar and cool it. See how I'm running it through the wetness of the fresh agar, and that'll cool it off a bit fast. And then I'm going to rotate this dish around and look for another spot that I can cut a leading edge off of. See one towards the center. See something questionable there. It can take a little bit of finessing to get that little chunk on your scalpel. Sometimes you have to get around it. Usually it doesn't work very well to stab it. Usually you want to get underneath of it or on the side and get stuck to it. Stabbing it will just tend to break it apart and you won't get a good grip on it anyhow. So, quick transfers. I'll be doing some transfers too with the king oyster culture that I have already growing on the dish. And that'll probably be ready tomorrow. So I'll do some tomorrow too.